These little gay witches are turning your kids gay. Look at this vampire. Look at her. Look at her and her pink bubblegum wife. Whoops, you look, now you're gay. And your future kids will be gay. What a world, what a world. Everywhere you look will be gay propaganda. You have no choice. You will be gay. Little bit of a hard launch there. But the question that we will be pondering in this video today is, does watching or interacting with gay entertainment and media turn you gay? And will including queer characters in kids' shows turn the whole next gen gay? The short answer is no, it will not. But I'm going to be taking you briefly through some history behind this belief and homophobia in general, the history of queer representation in TV and movie media, and some of my personal experiences with queer media as a child and the impact it had on me as a now 21-year-old lesbian. Little bit of a disclaimer here, I'm not an expert in any of these things. I am an expert in lesbianism from personal experience, but I am not a history teacher. I did a paper on this in uni, specifically referring to sapphic representation in films, so some of my research comes from that, but I obviously don't have a PhD or anything, and I will be referencing personal experience a lot. So if I say something and it doesn't align with your experience, that's totally okay. This is just my personal take on it. I just wanted to spread some knowledge and try and sort of dispel this weird belief that's going around that seeing gay characters in TV will somehow turn kids gay. Because what that really is fear-mongering, and we have enough of that going on at the moment, thank you very much. Additionally, I'm going to be using gay as an umbrella term here because I know the term queer can make people uncomfortable and has quite an upsetting history. And I can tend to stutter if I say LGBTQIA+ every time, so just know I'm not just referring to gay as in men attracted to men, I'm using it to cover all sexualities that aren't straight. The term homosexual or homosexuality first popped up in 1886 and was viewed as an unchangeable desire, something permanent that could not be changed. It was that stupid wannabe motherfucker Freud who first suggested that homosexuality was not a permanent part of someone's identity, but a consequence of bad parenting. But buddy, you know what they say about people in glass houses? Maybe mind your own business before saying two men sleeping together is weird. Oedipus ass. Anyway, Freud believed that parents would be able to steer their children towards heterosexuality through things like Boy Scouts and girl clubs, because of course, putting same-sex children in bonding situations is the best way to stop them from falling in love. He affirmed that by asserting stereotypical gender roles that children would be pushed towards opposite-sex attraction, this furthering the stigma that super masculine and super feminine women couldn't be gay, and additionally connecting gender expression to sexuality, stating that men with effeminate hobbies, dress senses, or mannerisms were immediately gay, and less stereotypically feminine women who like sports or cars would be lesbian, creating a sense of homohysteria as people accused others of being gay, further prompting widespread suspicion and gender discomfort, as this train of thought means that anyone could be gay, and a person's interests, fashion sense, and behaviors must be policed to ensure that there's no secret gays allowed within social circles. This led to many gay and heterosexual individuals altering their gender expression to avoid any homo accusations, leading to the term in the closet, as dress style and expression was specifically linked to accusations of gayness. Obviously now things have changed quite a lot, but we still see these sorts of accusations happening in the world today, as people can get told they don't dress gay enough to be gay, or that their outward appearance isn't fitting to their sexuality, which is obviously just BS, clothes have nothing to do with it. The term homophobia originated in the 1960s, coined by American psychologist George Weinberg, but obviously the experience existed far before then, being first documented in the Middle Ages. But side note, personal opinion incoming, homophobia is such a stupid word. It insinuates homophobes are afraid of gay people. Like what, you're afraid of people being in love? Like, no you aren't afraid. You're quite frankly just a hateful prick that needs to mind your own business. But anyways, if we link this history to the emergence of visual media and TV, if people were so paranoid about gender expression or parenting steering kids to same-sex attraction, which is obviously such a terrible thing, we can only assume that people didn't want any representation of this identity in publicly consumed media. This leads us to the Hays Code and its impacts which are still seen today. In a creative world where most high-budget productions must pander to the greater majority of society to have a hit, typically cisgender heterosexual couples take preference for major film representation. This was also done in order to promote this sort of lifestyle, believing that positive representation of hetero love would encourage children to idolize and crave these sorts of relationships. The Hays Code, a discriminatory filmmaking guideline originating in the 1930s, hoped to both promote straight relationships while also punishing gay ones. Gay relationships under these guidelines were originally banned from being presented within film. However, after World War II, these restrictions instead were interpreted to allow the depiction of LGBT characters so long as they were either villains or depressed, always received an unhappy ending so their perversion would be suitably punished. The repercussions of these portrayals and rules can still be seen within lots of queer representation in modern society. This was exemplified by the Bury Your Gays and Dead Lesbian Syndrome movement in 2015, where viewers began to realize the disproportionate amount of lesbian or gay female characters being killed within TV and film. Disturbing statistics reveal that out of the 193 American scripted TV shows airing between 1976 to 2016 that had queer female characters, a third had ended up killing off that character. It was discovered that sapphic characters were killed off at a rate 5 times higher than any other character in US primetime TV, these characters being robbed of happiness, seemingly reminiscent to the punishments required by the Hays Code. The Hays Code doesn't just appear in adult TV either. We can see these punishments being enacted full force in kids' media too, particularly through queer-coded characters who are typically the villains of the movie or show. Queer-coded in this sense means characters who either look queer, have subtext that alludes to queerness, speak or behave in ways associated with the queer community, i.e. being more flamboyant. For example, Ursula from The Little Mermaid is based on popular American drag performer Divine, and Scar from The Lion King is often considered queer-coded for his vocal cadence and theatrical, stereotypically effeminate movements and mannerisms. These queer-coded characters almost exclusively showing up as villains, and this isn't a coincidence. These little hints of subtext are designed to subconsciously reinforce beliefs about gay people being bad, unnatural, or evil, consistently trying to sabotage the happiness of others. Positive gay representation is the only way to counteract this, but it is increasingly difficult to find, especially with the current lean towards right-wing politics. The way that these characters are represented in movies may seem detached to real-life opinions, but look at how clothing trends emerge from popular media and content. The same trends appear in beliefs about certain demographics. Representation is extremely important, and at the rate we are currently going, the representation gay people are getting is just not cutting it. If you've watched any of my other videos, you probably know I love Dana Terrace's The Owl House. Well, while the writing of the show obviously subverted the Hays Code, featuring a primarily openly gay cast of characters, Disney killed it off, despite being the highest grossing show. This just further showing that big companies, despite loving money, love exclusion more. Because instead of embracing the newfound audience that was drawn towards Disney because of the Owl House being so inclusive, it chose to cancel it because of the loud few who were worried it would turn their precious baby angels gay. It isn't just exclusive, it is cowardly. And also just terrible business practice. Gay media is an incredibly undertapped market, and people are consistently looking for the next good, accurate, and not stereotypical piece of representation. So betraying their gay viewers like that was definitely a move. If you've been paying attention to any of the drawing/painting I've been doing below, you'd notice that I'm painting some of my favorite sapphic couples from kids media, including Luz and Amity from The Owl House, Catra and Adora from She-Ra, which is now Lost Media, and Sailor Uranus and Neptune from Sailor Moon. There's also a little additional one in there of me and my girlfriend because I couldn't help myself. She is my favorite gay person to draw. I chose to specifically draw sapphic couples, one, because I'm not very good at drawing men, sorry everyone, but also because I was inspired by the We Deserve Sunshine trend that was happening this Pride Month, where gay couples were finally allowed to get the sunshine and happy endings they deserved, even when they may not have gotten them in the shows that they were in. And I wanted to put these characters in situations where they weren't being punished. They're allowed to be happy, doing normal everyday activities and just being in love. Not being overly fetishized and sexualized like what stereotypically happens to sapphic couples, not being tortured and killed like what generally happens to all gay characters, just having their time in the sun. So I hope you like them. Now, if I segue into the more personal side of my interest in this, the first time I ever saw lesbian representation, outwardly lesbian representation, not subtextual or covert, the people who get it, and if you don't get fucked kind of representation, was Sailor, Neptune, and Uranus. Or Uranus, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, but when I first saw them, they were cousins. Yuck. Freud would probably love it, so extra yuck. I was given the discs from my older sister when I was about 10 and became obsessed with Sailor Moon and dressed up as her every year for Halloween. But I was only about 13 when I finally got my hands on the manga and realized the weird vibes I was getting from Uranus and Neptune in the Canadian-American dub of the show weren't just weird vibes. It was censorship. When I watched the TV show, I interpreted them as kind of odd best friends. I must have missed when they called each other cousins or just knew deep down something was amiss, but when I read the manga, it clicked for me that this detail being cut out wasn't a mistake. It was on purpose. And when I saw them behave and function as a couple in the manga, it didn't just suddenly change sexuality. I didn't get hit with a beam of lesbianness and buy a pride flag and revel in my introduction to sapphic attraction. I was introduced to something else instead. An unpleasant feeling. A feeling of discomfort, of awkwardness. A feeling like I had seen something maybe I wasn't supposed to. Because if I was supposed to see it, why was it cut out of the show? I wasn't raised religious, and I didn't go to a religious school, and I definitely wasn't anti-queer as a little kid. I had been watching Drag Race since I was 11 years old and I loved it. One of my first celebrity crushes was Pearl the Drag Queen, which I repeatedly said was solely based on Pearl's appearance outside of drag, but now I realize definitely wasn't. I loved the parts of the gay community I had been introduced to the point where in year 6 I had an Adore Delano phone case which I showed off constantly, and I basically only listened to RuPaul's music, which was definitely not appropriate on account of all the swearing and sexual references and such, but this all goes to say it's not like I was unfamiliar with the concept of being gay. And no one, aside from my brother, but that's a whole different story, had told me that there was anything wrong with it. So why did seeing this sapphic comic book couple make me feel so weird? It occurs to me now that when I was younger I didn't know that being lesbian was an option. This seems to be a common theme with most of the people I know that are lesbian as well. We all knew men being gay was a thing, and were often very aggressive allies, but lesbianism, dating women, it just didn't occur to me or them. I never really connected with straight ships or couples I saw on TV, but on RuPaul, hearing the queens talk about their partners or relationships, I felt so much joy, but also a weird sense of melancholy. When I saw and read about Sailor Uranus and Neptune and their relationship, I felt like I should hide it, keep it to myself, protect it from prying eyes, and I realize now that I think that was my first notable experience of internalized homophobia. I felt like being gay, for anyone but me, was the most wonderful, beautiful thing in the world. So I went on supporting the gay community and arguing with my brother, but adamantly denying being gay, even going so far as to be labeled by a not-so-healthy friend group I had in high school as the token straight friend. It filled me with a burning sense of shame every time I heard it. Deep down I knew something wasn't right, but that feeling of having something wrong with me, needing to hide, stuck with me until I was a lot older and just couldn't hide it from anyone. And why should I have to hide? I tried for an extremely long time to like boys. I felt sick over it and ashamed. I had a counselor, a pretty bad one, tell me it was a phase, and I cried and cried about it because I knew it wasn't. I'm so much happier now that I can embrace my identity openly, but that isn't a privilege that everyone gets to have, and that's not fair. This whole argument that kids watching gay media will be turned gay is founded on the idea that being gay is a choice when it just plainly isn't. No one would choose to feel ashamed. No one would choose to hide part of their identity, hide who they love from fear of rejection, shame, or even worse, incarceration, threats, or death. No one would do that to fit a trend or gain more aura because, let's face it, gay people just have more aura, but still, no one would choose to take that risk if it wasn't something completely unchangeable. Before TV, the same question was asked about clothes and hobbies. Does liking pink make a boy gay? Does liking sports make a girl lesbian? But it all comes back to this one idea. I'm going to present a hypothetical just to demonstrate how stupid it is to believe that TV could turn a kid gay. Okay, so, hypothetically, your child loves Doc McStuffins. or K-pop demon hunters, or Zootopia, whatever. They're obsessed with it to the point that they want to become a doctor. Or Korean. I know that sounds crazy, but the kids at my work have in fact asked how to become Korean because of that movie. Or they want to become a sarcastic bipedal animal. These kids may then dress like doctors, or the characters from the movies or TV shows. They might hold that as their obsession for a year, or a week, or a few months, and then it might stop aligning with them. Maybe they'll realize they can't change race or grow fur, and it will be a funny story for when they're older. That's fine. TV shows kids options and different experiences. They should be allowed to take interest in them. But then, there is also the chance that they could grow up, realizing their childhood interest in being a doctor was accurate. They're so glad they knew they had that option, because now they aren't confused about themselves and who they are. They know they are a doctor at heart, and wow, look at that, they lead a happy and wonderful life as an openly proud doctor. The same thing could happen with gay characters in TV. Kids don't experience sexual attraction, so if they saw a gay character and said, "I want to be gay," it is just a descriptor to them at that point. So it may end up being a funny story if they are straight when they're older and potentially experience sexual attraction. But if they aren't, they've been allowed to see gay characters in relationships and go, hey, that's okay. That's natural. That's beautiful. And maybe they won't go through everything lots of gay people do. The burning shame, the hiding. And kids will see gay people no matter what. They aren't just fictional characters, they are in real life. They're on National Geographic, little gay penguins adopting abandoned eggs. The kids at my work know I have a girlfriend, and they don't have to understand sexuality to understand that love is love. They know that I love someone who is a girl. And when they see TV characters like Amity and Luz, I'm sure they think the same thing. Wow, Amity loves a girl. Luz loves a girl. They aren't thinking about sexuality at all, they're thinking about love. All the other inner workings will only become relevant when they're older, so if kids are allowed to see Disney princes and princesses in love, why can't they see ours? It's all the same thing. It's all love. Children these days watch over 35 hours of television or video content in a week. And if this content is good content, not skibbity toilet AI slop bullshit, fuck AI, what they are exposed to can help them learn new things about the world, improve their creativity, and help with their social skills. This creates an opportunity for children to learn about diversity, acceptance, and different kinds of relationships, but the fear-mongering that very outspoken adults do often tramples all over any sort of positive progress that could be on the horizon. Censoring queer media like The Owl House or Sailor Moon doesn't make your kids less likely to be gay. It makes them more likely to be ashamed and repressed and afraid if they do happen to be gay in any way. When I realized that Sailor Neptune and Uranus' relationship had been changed in the comic versus the TV show, I didn't stop being lesbian deep down. Instead, I learned from the media's treatment of them that that was how I should treat myself. It was something I should keep hidden, that I should be ashamed of, that I should just say my partner is my best friend. And she is, but she's more than that. And that is beautiful and real and just as valid as it would be if she was a boy. Because so many people told me I would get over it and it would be a phase and that I'm just confused about us or affection, but that's not how it works. Nothing can convince your children to be gay. Nothing can convince your children to be straight. Deeply Christian people can still be gay even if they are taught how ungodly it is, even if they hear about the eternal suffering. Homophobia, despite its violence and threats, cannot stop or erase gayness from the world, and it is more important than ever that people remember that. You can yell as loud as you want, but love cannot be erased or changed. In conclusion, it's just wild to me how often this argument pops up when queer people finally get represented in spaces where they aren't normally allowed to exist, like kids' books or movies or TV. Look at how much hetero representation there is. It is literally every single Disney princess movie and show. It's not like straight people don't have options. Like, please, if you really don't want your kids to see it because you're a weirdo, and yes, homophobes are inherently weirdos, get a life, then show them literally anything else. It's not like you're strapped for choices. Everything is made with you in mind as the prioritized consumer. So leave the very few ounces of content we get to us, because we love it, and we appreciate it as it is. Because if when I was younger, all I had seen was Sailor Uranus and Neptune as a beautiful couple, or if I had seen Lumity out and proud, or if Catra and Adora could have kissed before the last episode of the whole show, maybe I wouldn't have denied a large part of myself for so long, or felt sick with guilt that I didn't want a boyfriend. Maybe if I had known I had options and that there was nothing wrong with any of those options, I wouldn't have been so scared of who I was and who I am. And I have to say, looking back on how I grew up now, I may not have been exposed to overtly sapphic content, but I was into Winx Club and Monster High and Ever After High, and basically any show where all the girls were beautiful and all the boys were useless and basically just accessories. And those shows tried to be pretty straight a lot of the time, and I still ended up like this, so... Shout out to Buttersleeve, and shout out to my precious bug. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I am very, very glad that I met you. Being gay with you is the best, and even though people can be shitty sometimes, if being gay was a choice, despite it all, I'd still choose you every time. Happy Pride, everyone. Whether you're out in the closet or still figuring yourself out, you are valid and beautiful and loved. You deserve sunshine. Thanks for watching. Bye!